You enter a room designed to feel generous, wide, open, carefully lit. The ceiling is high enough to make voices feel smaller. Rows of chairs face forward. A stage waits at the front, clean and empty. Everything suggests welcome. This is a place built to receive people and something from them. Near the entrance are tables laid out with intention, envelopes stacked neatly, small boxes, cards with soft colors and careful language. Nothing looks urgent, nothing looks demanding. The setup feels calm, almost thoughtful. You are invited to move at your own pace, to look, to consider. The room does not rush you. It doesn't need to. Others are already here, sitting quietly, adjusting their seats, holding envelopes in their hands. Some look around, some look forward. No one speaks loudly. Giving is treated like something private, even though everyone is doing it together. Music hums softly in the background, not a song you would remember, just enough sound to smooth the edges of silence. It fills the gaps where questions might form. It makes the waiting feel purposeful, like something meaningful is about to happen. Nothing in the room explains exactly what the donation does. There are hints, words like support, community, impact, together. They float gently, never landing too hard. The details feel less important than the act itself. You can sense that giving is not just about money here. It's about being part of what's happening.
The architecture helps. Wide aisles, clear sight lines, no barriers.
The space makes movement easy. It also makes leaving noticeable. Most people stay. Staying feels like the natural choice. Participation feels like belonging. At the front, the stage remains empty, but it doesn't feel unused. It feels patient, like it's waiting for agreement before it speaks. The room seems to lean forward slightly, as if expecting a shared moment, something collective, something confirming. No one is forced, no one is watched closely, and yet the room holds attention. Giving feels normal here, expected but gently. Like a shared custom everyone already understands. You sense that once you give, something changes. Not in the room, but in your place within it. This is not a place for calculation, it's a place for alignment. The envelopes wait, the chairs face forward, the room is ready. And before anyone asks for anything, belonging already feels close enough to reach. This is where Carl Jung would begin to pay attention. Not to the envelopes themselves, but to the feeling around them. To what giving allows people to avoid feeling. To what it quietly promises in return. In rooms like this, donation is framed as generosity. Clean, positive, almost weightless. But Jung would look for what sits beneath that surface. The fears that never get named. The worry of not belonging. The discomfort of standing apart. These feelings don't disappear when people give. They are often the reason giving feels necessary. The shadow here is not greed. It is insecurity, the quiet fear of being outside the circle. When many people sit together holding envelopes, not giving begins to feel visible. Even without eyes watching, awareness sharpens. Jung understood how easily groups turn inner tension into shared ritual. Giving becomes a way to manage that tension. It offers relief, a small action that restores balance. Once the envelope is placed down, something settles. The body relaxes, the room feels friendlier. Nothing external has changed, but the internal unease has been soothed. Jung would notice that exchange. What stays hidden is the question behind it. Am I welcome without this? Does belonging need proof? Those questions don't get asked here. They remain in the shadow because they feel uncomfortable and unnecessary. Everyone else is participating. That feels like enough of an answer. Jung believed the shadow grows stronger when it is shared but unnamed. In this space, many people carry the same unspoken feeling, the desire to be seen as good, as generous, as part of something larger. When those desires are mirrored by the group, they stop feeling personal, they start feeling normal. The donation table becomes a place where the shadow is managed quietly, not confronted, not discussed. just eased. The act of giving absorbs doubt and returns reassurance. You did the right thing. You belong. You are aligned with the room. Jung wouldn't accuse anyone here of bad intentions. He would simply observe how giving becomes a container for unspoken needs, how generosity can carry fear without admitting it, how groups learn to keep uncomfortable questions out of sight by offering a simple, shared solution. The shadow remains present even after the envelopes are gone. It lingers in the silence that follows, in the relief that settles across the room, in the shared understanding that something important has been handled without ever being named. This is where Friedrich Nietzsche would start listening for judgment, even when no one speaks it out loud. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind that hides inside words like generosity, support, and doing the right thing. In rooms like this, giving is framed as goodness. Not optional goodness, but the natural thing to do. The atmosphere makes it feel clean and elevated. To donate is to care. To hesitate feels awkward, even if no one notices. Morality here doesn't arrive as rules, it arrives as mood. Nietzsche would notice how quickly values settle into place. Giving becomes a signal, not of wealth, but of character. People who give are aligned, responsible, mature. Those who don't are never named, but the absence speaks quietly. Silence carries meaning when belief is shared. What makes this moral system powerful is how gentle it feels. No pressure, no demand. Just an understanding that this is how good people behave here. The room teaches without instruction. Chairs face forward, envelopes wait patiently. The act of giving is woven into the normal flow of belonging. Nietzsche was wary of moral certainty that feels kind. He saw how easily shared values turn into invisible standards. Once generosity becomes the measure of goodness, not giving becomes something to explain. Not publicly, but internally. People begin to justify themselves to the room, even when the room says nothing back. In this space, outcomes matter less than intention. If giving doesn't lead to visible change, the moral story remains intact. You did your part. You showed up correctly. The belief protects itself by rewarding the feeling of virtue, not the result. Nietzsche would also notice how morality here is equal on the surface. Everyone is invited to give, but not everyone experiences that invitation the same way. For some, giving feels light. For others, it feels costly. The moral language stays the same regardless. Good is good. Participation is participation. Nothing here feels harsh. That's why it works. Moral pressure doesn't need force when it feels natural. The room stays calm, the donation table stays open, and goodness becomes something you perform together, quietly, trusting that this is what belonging is supposed to look like. This is where Niccolò Machiavelli would stop listening to reasons and start watching movement. He would look at what changes hands, at what shifts quietly, at who gains position without ever asking for it. In a space like this, donation does not feel like power. It feels like choice, voluntary, personal, clean. But Machiavelli knew that power works best when it does not announce itself, when people believe they are acting freely while their actions still produce the same outcome. Money moves first, not loudly, not dramatically. Envelopes pass forward, boxes fill slowly. Nothing looks excessive. That restraint matters. It keeps the act respectable. It keeps it from looking like control. But the accumulation is real, even when it is gentle. Attention follows. Those who organize the giving become central. Their words carry weight. Their timing shapes the room. They don't need to demand anything. The structure already does that work. The room is built so that participation flows in one direction, toward the front, toward the system that receives. Machiavelli would notice how responsibility is arranged. If the donation leads to visible success, the system is praised. If it doesn't, responsibility moves back to the giver. Not enough faith, not enough commitment. The structure remains protected either way. Power stays stable. He would also watch how silence functions. No one asks who decides, how much is enough. No one asks who controls where it goes. These questions feel unnecessary here, almost rude. The room rewards trust, not curiosity. That is not an accident, that is design. What makes this power effective is how calm it feels. There are no threats, no consequences stated out loud. Participation is encouraged, not enforced, but opting out carries a cost that doesn't need words. Distance, disconnection, a subtle sense of being outside the shared flow. Machiavelli believed that influence lasts longest when it feels natural. In this space, giving aligns people. It creates loyalty without contracts. It produces agreement without debate. People return because the system feels familiar and stable, not because it is questioned. Nothing here looks controlling. That's why it works. Power doesn't need to dominate when belief organizes behavior on its behalf. The envelopes move, the room stays full, and influence continues quietly, carried forward by trust that no longer asks where it's going. This is where Napoleon Hill would feel completely at ease. He listened for belief that turns action into proof, for moments where giving stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like investment. In a room like this, donation is not framed as sacrifice. It is framed as participation in a future that promises return. Hill believed that belief grows stronger when it is acted on. Writing the check, sealing the envelope, placing it forward. These are not just gestures, they are confirmations. When many people do them together, belief feels solid, real. You can see it, you can count it. You can measure commitment in paper and numbers. The promise here is subtle but clear. Giving brings you closer, not just to a cause, but to the group itself. Contribution becomes a signal. It says you are serious, you are invested, you are not just watching. Hill understood how powerful that feeling is. People don't just buy into ideas, they buy into belonging. In this space, belief is always rewarded emotionally. Relief follows giving. Confidence settles in. Even uncertainty feels quieter once the transaction is complete. The future may still be unknown, but your role in it feels confirmed. You've done your part. Hill would recognize how belief stabilizes when it is tied to action. What makes this work is how simple it feels. No complex rules, no deep explanations. Give and you are aligned. Give and you are moving forward. The system does not need to promise exact outcomes. It only needs to keep belief intact. As long as the future remains open, hope has room to breathe. Hill would notice how donation becomes a bridge between doubt and certainty. When questions arise, giving answers them without words. It replaces thinking with doing. Action quiets uncertainty, especially when many people act together. This belief does not feel forced, it feels earned. You see others giving, you feel the rhythm of participation. The room confirms that this is how progress happens here. Hill believed that belief thrives when it is shared and repeated. In this hall, repetition does the work. Nothing here feels dishonest, that's important. Belief doesn't need guarantees when it offers meaning instead. The exchange feels fair because it feels hopeful. Money moves forward, belonging moves inward, and trust settles comfortably in between, held up by the quiet assurance that giving is how you stay part of what's coming next.